Hello, everyone. My name is Rabbi Norin from Pninei. I'd like to speak to you about Parshat Shmot. Let's open up the slideshow. We prepared. Okay, today we want to talk about Hashem hears, Hashem sees. Two verbs that occur in this week's Parsha. We look at the Parsha here. Right in the middle of the Parsha, there are three verses that the whole Parsha is built around. The first one says, a long time after that, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites were groaning under the bondage and cried out, and their cry for help from the bondage rose up to God. The next verse says that God heard their moaning, and God remembered the covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. We have here Hashem hearing the people's moaning. The verse after that says, and God looked upon the Israelites, and God took notice of them. So we have three verses. The first one says that the people were crying out from their bondage to Hashem. The second one says that Hashem heard their mourning, and Hashem remembered the covenant. And the third one was that Hashem looked upon them and took notice of them. What's the difference of these three verses? Well, the first one is the people's action, the people crying out to Hashem. But the second, verses 2 and 3, or we should say verses 24 and 25 of the second chapter Exodus, seem very similar. Hashem heard them, Hashem looked upon them. What's the difference? So we have other places in Tanakh with these verbs. We have later on in the book of Shmot, in the Parshat Mishpatim, Exodus chapter 22, it says, you shall not ill-treat any widow or orphan. If you do mistreat them, I will hear their outcry as soon as they cry out to me, and my anger shall blaze forth, and I will put you to the sword, and your own wives shall become widows, and your own children orphans. Here Hashem says that he takes care of the weak and the powerless and the people who are very apt to be taken advantage of. And if that happens, Hashem hears that, is as if you hear a family member being attacked, and Hashem takes action. This is the hearing. Hearing is when something is happening wrong to someone who can't defend themselves. Hashem hears that, and he defends them instead. So that's hearing. Seeing, we have also seeing a few times that Hashem sees. Here's a classic case. This is with Hagar. Hagar was exiled from her house by Sarai, and Hagar had a child in her womb, and she just wanted to keep her child, and she was ready to run away in order to keep the child. And then Hashem sends an angel and says, go back, and back to Sarai, go back to being suffering, but the child will be yours. And after hearing that, she called the name of the Lord, and was sick with her, you are the God of seeing. Because she said, have I seen him? Here also I have seen. A difficult verse to translate, but Hagar understood that Hashem didn't just hear that she was distressed. She saw what she wanted. She saw what she needed. Hashem elevated her request as not just, it's a maidservant. This is a woman who wants a baby. And Hashem says you're going to be able to keep that baby. That baby will call Yishmael. Yishmael, which is Hashem heard, but here Hagar is not focusing on the hearing aspect. Hearing her distress is seeing her needs. So we have two ways that Hashem, going back to Egypt, he heard us. He heard us just like he hears the orphans crying. He heard the people and they're crying from help in their bondage. He heard that, and he remembered that we are his people, and he's a covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his people are being hurt. He comes to help. That's one aspect of the Exodus. The salvation, being taken out of oppression. But there's another aspect where Hashem looked upon us and noticed them and said, I'm going to look upon what are their needs. I'm going to be able to give them their needs. They're not just a people, a slave people, or even the children of Abraham and Isaac. They're each individuals who have needs. I'm going to look upon them and try to say, how can I elevate them? How can I give them their needs? And that's something by taking us out of Egypt, he's able to give us the freedom for our self-actualization as well. We have two mitzvahs to remember the Exodus, mentioned in Exodus chapter 13, verse 9. In one verse, it says, and this shall serve you as a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead. We have to put the tefillin on our hand and our forehead is one mitzvah, the very visual mitzvah, a visual mitzvah to reciprocate God's kindness. He saw our needs. He elevated us. We want to show the world Hashem's greatness, Hashem's ability to elevate people, and we wear our tefillin. Perhaps, since it's such a visible mitzvah, due to modest reasons, women don't have a mitzvah to stand out visually. Perhaps their mitzvah is the modest extra laws of modesty they have. That is their mitzvah, of their visual mitzvah, to be extra modest in God's name. But the verse also continues with another mitzvah, in order that the teachings of Hashem may be in your mouth. That with a mighty hand Hashem freed you from Egypt. Meaning that we have a mitzvah to be shown, to be seen as Hashem saw us, and we have a mitzvah to be heard as Hashem heard us. Hashem heard us as people suffering, and therefore we have a mitzvah to teach and make sure the world hears the teachings of Hashem, to be kind to a stranger, to be kind to the orphans. And maybe if people hear enough the words of Hashem, then Hashem won't have to hear the oppression of people crying out to him. And therefore, Parshat Shmot has these two actions that Hashem does for us, and we reciprocate by doing two actions to Hashem. He heard our suffering, he saw our needs, and we reciprocate by showing the world that Hashem is the one who elevates us. He gives us the ability in our hands, our actions to do what's in our heart and in our mind. And we also have a mitzvah to teach Torah, to make heard the words of the God, make heard the word of Torah, the kindness of Torah, the uplifting Torah, the Torah that will eventually rectify the world to make it a better place. Shabbat Shalom from Pninei. My name is Rabbi Norin. See you in the future.